Hey folks, Dan the Man here with Raulston Acres Christmas Tree Farm. So you want to grow Christmas trees? Well, let's dive right on into it and see what happens. You know, a lot of people have this misconception that Christmas tree farming is a seasonal job. 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, maybe from fall through winter. No, starts in January and it goes until December 31st. That is a full year of Christmas tree farming. The fun part, yeah, it's during the Christmas tree harvesting season. That's when people come onto the farm, cut the Christmas trees, or maybe you cut it for them or whatever, and you're selling Christmas trees, income's coming in. Oh, that's great. But guess what? From the time that you start, you're 4 years at least away from having that experience. So anyway, if you're looking at something that you're possibly thinking about with 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 acres, this is something that you might want to take a look at. Let me tell you a little bit about my story. Back around 2006, something like that, I had a beef cattle farm. And we have roughly, around 39, 40 acres here at Raulston Acres. And we were growing Black Angus beef cattle and everything was good. And I grew up on a beef cattle farm. It was something that I knew a little bit about. Didn't really appreciate it much till I got older. But anyway, to make a long story short, I was out feeding one night and didn't have a cab on the tractor or anything. And I was putting out hay and, with black cows and dark of night because it was after work. All you see is their eyes and you have to sort of watch about where you're driving. I was putting out hay and feed and it was starting to sleet and getting cold. And, I just, something in my head said, there's got to be something better than this. Cattle were down, prices were up, diesel fuel was up, feed was up. So I decided, the only other thing that I might even possibly look at would be some Christmas tree farming. I did that when I was in college a little bit. My dad said, hey, you want to make some extra money? Go out here on the fence rows and cut some red cedar trees. We were living in southeast Tennessee, and I thought, well, okay. So I went out and anything that looked like a Christmas tree, that's what we cut. And we sold them to a wholesale, to a retailer in northern Alabama. And anyway, that was the only experience I had. So I decided, I wonder if there's such things as Christmas tree farms. So I started looking and researching on the internet and finding farms all over the southeastern United States. Matter of fact, all over the United States. And I thought, well, this might be something that would interest me on a small amount of acreage and something that would maybe increase profits and go a little bit further toward enjoyment all the way. So that's my story. And I don't know, this is many years later. We've grown from started out with 500 trees, roughly 450, and now we've got close to 5,000 in our field and another 1,000 or so in our nursery waiting to be planted. And we're selling, anywhere from, 1,400 to 1,800 trees a year right now. So it's been an enjoyable experience for me. It's been a profitable experience for us. And we hope that if you're looking into this, that you might find some information that might help you make your decision. Christmas tree farming is definitely an alternative for somebody with smaller acreage and they want to make them or maximize rather their potential from that smaller amount of acreage. So with that said, let's take a look at some other issues that you might want to consider before becoming a full-fledged Christmas tree farmer. Well, here are some things that you might want to think about. And I've got them written down here because I can't commit them all to memory as they come up. First of all, how much land do you want to commit to Christmas trees? Maybe 2 acres, maybe 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20. You may not want to commit them all at once, but this is something to consider when you're looking at getting into the business, because you want to eventually rotate the years that you're cutting in certain areas. So if you start out with a smaller field and then next year you plant a little bit more, then a little bit more, and a little bit more, you sort of want to have a feel for how much you want to totally commit to growing Christmas trees. You know, growing Christmas trees isn't like I'm gonna plant them in May or plant them in March or April, and then by June or July I should have a crop. No, that's not the way it works. Most varieties of Christmas trees in the southeast, which is where we are, we're in northwest Georgia right now, will take anywhere from 4 to 5 years to mature to a size that customers would like to cut for Christmas trees. Now, another thing that you might want to look at, especially if you live outside the southeast, maybe a little north into northeast Tennessee, maybe up into Virginia and even further north, is some of the fir varieties. They can take anywhere from 7 to 10 years to mature into the size tree that you might want to sell to your customers. So with all that said, you know, it's a commitment. It's committing your land for a certain number of years. Depending on where you are, we can turn them over in about, say, anywhere from 3.5 to 4.5 years here. When you get into some of your bigger sizes, like 9 and 10 foot, it might take 5 or 6 years. But generally, we can take care of that without a whole lot of problem. Now, when you get into the firs, you know, it could take 8, 10, 12 years even for these firs to get to the height that your customers might want to buy. Let's see what's next on my list. Okay, the next is, how many trees do I want to grow? Obviously, that is a big consideration. How many trees do I want to start with? You know, I've heard some horror stories from other farmers that I've talked to as I was getting into the business, where they said, well, I went all in and I planted, you know, 1,500 trees the first year. I'm not sure that that's going to be the best advice that I can give you. I would start out small. We did. My experience is we started out with about 450 trees, say 400 to 500. Get yourself established, because when you start selling, you may not have 1,500 customers all come to your farm at one time. It may be that you're starting small and growing your customer base. So with that said, you might want to look at maybe somewhere around 500-600 trees, no more. And that also limits the amount of work. So if you make mistakes, they're small mistakes. Whereas if you had 1,500 trees and you made a big mistake that would affect those trees, might be a little bigger. So with that question of how many trees do I want to plant, that's up to you. That's up to how much work you want to put into it. But my suggestion is start small, maybe 450, 500, 550. Here's the next thing on the list is, what is my market like in my area? Boy, that's a big consideration. Being an old sales guy like myself, you know, marketing is very, very important. You know, what kind of area do I live in? Am I in a suburban area? Am I in a area that maybe is within like 10, 15 miles from a larger town or city? My farm here happens to be somewhere around 25 miles south of Chattanooga, Tennessee, which, you know, gives us a lot of metro area around that city. I say the metro area for Chattanooga probably stretches, you know, 10 miles to the west, maybe 10 or 15 miles to the north, and all around. So with that said, I do think that that's a consideration, is where am I living? Am I living in a predominantly rural area? It's not quite as heavily populated as maybe the suburban areas would be. Well, you know, that's a consideration. Okay, do I want to plant more trees? Do I think my customer base is going to grow to that same base that maybe someone in the suburban area is going to have? I don't know. But my suggestion is evaluate that before you decide how many trees you're going to plant. Another thing that we might want to bring up too along those lines is, you know, the access to your property. The access to your property. Do you have a major highway running pretty close to your place? Do you have a county road or something that's well maintained that would access your property? That's going to be very important, because the customers will not want to have to drive back roads back and forth and around and up and down all the time to get to your place. Now they might, like I said, depending on your area, most folks, I would think, in my opinion, is in a larger city or something, they will want to have easier access than somebody maybe is out and used to driving the county roads and the small back roads to get to your place. But that is a consideration. What kind of traffic do you have? Is it very, very heavy? Is it light? You know, traffic count on a road can be a double-edged sword. You know, some people say, well, I don't drive that road because the traffic's so heavy. You can't even get on that road because the traffic's so heavy. That could be a negative. On the other hand, well, you know, Highway 100 is a great way to get to your farm. It's easily accessed. Yeah, the traffic can get heavier around morning and evening commutes, but other than that, it's pretty good. That might be something else to consider. What kind of traffic do you have? Another thing that we can look at is how visible are you? You know, are you going to be tucked, you know, on back in the back part of your, the back part of your property? Are you going to be able to be seen from the road? Can people, is there proper signage area where you can put some signs up or something and direct people into your place? Or are you right within 200 yards of a highway that can be easily seen? You know, here, we built our big barn up on a hill where it could be seen, and it's only a couple hundred yards off of a highway. And that way people, you can give them directions, say, hey, we're the big red barn on the hill kind of thing. Of course, we have signs too, but that's something that you can consider is, if I'm going to build my staging area, so to speak, in the back part of my property, how am I going to get people to park? Are they going to walk all the way back? Are they going to park close by? These are all considerations to put down on paper and discuss amongst yourselves with other family members or whatever to see exactly what you might want to do. Okay, the next question that comes up on this list is, what's my soil like? You know, do I have rocky soil? Do I have good topsoil? Do I have heavy clay? Do I have loam? What kind of soil do I have? Well, you know, that's an important factor. And of course, I suggest when you start planting trees to get a soil test and see exactly what nutrients are in your soil, what's lacking, what could be better for growing the trees. But my suggestion here is evaluate the topographical part of your farm. Am I going to be on a hill? Am I going to be in lowland? Am I on flat ground? Does water actively drain off my place after a rain, or does it sit in puddles everywhere? That is something else to consider when you're putting together the tree farm and where you're going to plant and this kind of thing. Again, if you've got limited amount of acreage, you know, then you're going to say, well, is it all on a hillside? Are the customers going to be okay with that? Or if you've got bigger acreage, well, I might want to plant and use this over here or not use this over here. Just a consideration. What kind of soil do you have? What kind of topographical situation do you have? Here's another question. What varieties am I going to grow? What grows better in my area? Well, to be honest with you, if you're in the southeastern United States or northeastern United States or wherever in the country you are, my first stop would be to go on the internet and look and find your USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, planting zone. See where your farm is located. What planting zone is it in? Is it in a zone 8, a zone 7, zone 7A, 7B, zone 6? That can make a big determining factor into what you plant. Some varieties like zone, they'll say, okay, they're good for zone 6 through 9. Then some might say, well, it's only in zones 4 through 5 or 4 through 6 or something like that. This will make a big determination as to the varieties. Off the just general suggestion, in the southeastern United States, most of the tree farmers here will grow a Murray cypress, a Leland cypress, a Carolina sapphire, a blue eye cypress, a green giant arborvitae, and then some Virginia pines. We're right close. Some people can grow white pines, but in my area, no firs. You can't grow firs. Oh, you might grow them for a year or two, but then they'll eventually die or they won't perform well. You have to get in elevations from, say, 3,000 feet up to get some good fir variety growth. I think North Carolina, upper East Tennessee, in the mountains, in the upper elevations there is where you can grow the firs. But again, considerations, firs are going to take longer. The other varieties don't take quite as long. Your Murrays, your Carolinas, all the ones that I mentioned for the southeastern United States, usually between a 4 and 6 year growth cycle to get them to the height that you really need. But variety is also something that you want to consider when you're planning out your Christmas tree farm, okay? And making the decision, do I really want to commit myself to this? As you can see, there are a lot of things to consider when planning to grow a Christmas tree farm. We'll get into some more of those tips a little later in another video. We just don't have time to get them all today. But don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel for more information about growing Christmas trees. And please share, feel free to share this with other YouTubers so that they can help our subscription to grow. Doesn't cost you a thing, helps us, doesn't cost you anything. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time on Farming Around the Christmas Tree.